With the advent of liberalization, investing in new technology is probably the most important requisite for improving or maintaining a competitive market position for any organization. Technology strategy comprises the determination of the basic long term technological goals and objectives and adaptation of a course of action and the allocation of resources for carrying out these goals is a fundamental objective of the organization. This is on which the top management will draw its objectives, its policies, and the process of running an organization, the methodology which it wants to adopt in taking these ideas into the future. It includes formulation and implementation. Formulation comprises the logical and analytical activities of deciding what to do. Implementation, this is pivotal and this is the toughest part for any organization in converting, and in fact we can say it is a struggle over realization of ideas. It is a struggle over realization of ideas. Both formulation and implementation are important. Mere formulation of an idea cannot help any organization. The process of formulation comprises the logical and analytical activities of deciding what to do. Implementation is the process of achieving the desired results. After all, the entire management and hierarchy is meant for that. If implementation is poorly planned and executed, new technology adoption can, in fact, substantially erode a firm's competitive position. It is therefore imperative that any attempt to address the field of technology management include a study of implementation process and its management. These are the fundamental ways in which the struggle of realizing ideas into action, realizing the concepts into action will be taking place in any organization, which is very important objective. Implementation may be placed in a continuum in which interaction takes place between those who seek an objective and those on whom action depends. The importance of implementation is undeniable because it is a struggle over the realization of ideas. Effective implementation overcomes the gaps between intention and promise. This is what is the crux of it. Intention and promise. Achievement and performance. I repeat these words, wonderful ideas. Gaps between the gulf or gaps or hiatus, whatever you call, between intention and promise, achievement and performance, and prescription and reality. Prescription and reality. That means diagnosing where the idea was wrongly implemented or going in a wrong method. There the prescription and reality. After prescribing, diagnosing and prescribing, in reality what is happening, that is what has to be followed up by a senior managers. It comprises the ability to achieve specified ends by chosen means. Implementation is the phase between a decision and realization. I repeat this beautiful sentence. The implementation is the phase between decision and realization. The time factor is critical in the implementation phase. The implementation process involves developing and pursuing a strategy to ensure optimal accomplishment. I repeat the word optimal accomplishment of objectives with a minimum of delays, overruns, deviations, and problems. This is what is the crux, the struggle over realization of ideas. We will discuss various roles, how the managers react, how at times they become pathways, and how at times they become stumbling blocks. Contingencies characterize implementation in several ways. Hence, interactive and dynamic elements are vital to implementation, which involves the capacity for forging links in the causal chain connecting actions to objectives. The logic of implementation is not unilinear but multilinear. I repeat this word. The logic of implementation is not unilinear but multilinear, requiring divergences and convergences as strategic points. This is what the real process which has to be led, which has to be monitored, which has to be enlightened, which has to be hammered into the several levels of the hierarchy, requiring divergences and convergences at strategic points. This is what the ultimate goal and process of implementation, the struggle for implementation, whatever we may call. The coordination of activities at multiple levels, it is entirety. This implementation process involves identifying alternative solutions and appropriate implementation techniques in order to reduce the discrepancy between what actually occurs and what is envisaged. This is again major part of monitoring, that is, what is exactly envisaged to the downline managers and what actually is occurring. This is where monitoring by onlookers, continuous review, continuous observation of the senior onlookers will come into existence. Understanding the current situation, it's essential before attempting to implement the new technology. Prior to any decisive action, it is necessary for managers to ensure that the current operation effectively and efficiently developed to prevent the possibility of automating the allow smooth transition into new process and infrastructure. Planning for implementation of the new technology should accomplish and encompass a relatively long time horizon to assure the stability of the new system. So here comes the new system has to be clearly explained, it has to be defined, it has to be translated into various goals at the various segments of the level of production and managing the organization. That ability is the ability of a top management. When technology introduced, there is generally a counterbalance human response. A change is significant as resulting from the implementation of a new technology can have a very consequential impact on the people concerned. Those who are likely to be affected in different ways may be categorized into three types of people, employees, where we have to take necessary steps to train them, to motivate them, to guide them, and finally lead them into the concept what management is envisaging for the purpose of implementation effectively. The four possible patterns of interaction are synergy, the enthusiastic acceptance of a new technology by the user, that is a participant or a manager at various levels. Some people have allergy, the rejection of a new technology by the user. Enforced emplacement, the unwilling acceptance of a new technology by the user, a new method or system. Adaptation, the initial rejection and eventual acceptance of a new technology by the user or the implementer, where at various levels the role of the lower level managers to top management has to have a uniform approach and a uniform idea in finally devising a technique or a method in implementing a new idea or a new technology. See, there is a beautiful term in bureaucracy: interdepartment conflict, union resistance, and resistance by normally the people whenever a new idea is implemented. The term hedgers has been used to describe managers. I want to define this word hedgers. It is very, very important in the process of in the struggle of implementation of ideas. The term hedgers has been used to describe managers who refuse to take a stand either for or against the implementation of new technology. These fence sitter managers are risk averse and will avoid committing themselves until they receive signals telling them which way to go. Implementation of new technology or new idea can be successful by ensuring hedges are on the company side before the process begins. Other personality types may be categorized into promoters and inhibitors and include several categories. Here, I would like to lay more emphasis on the role of these hedges, the role of leaders at the top management, including learning and development, including mentors, bringing these hedges from fence sitting to the effective idea of implementing what management envisaged into practice. That is translating that idea or a technology, new methodology into practice is a bigger and a difficult role to be played by the senior leaders. They must act as mentors there. They must act as guiding philosophers to certain level of the people. Unless that level of activity is done, these people cannot be brought to implement what has been envisaged by the management. The promoters, some sections are promoters, people who recognize their responsibility to the success of a new technology and profitability of the company. And another section of the people are called movers, people who remove obstacles when they encounter them. Shakers, people who recognize the opportunity and will make it happen. These are the people who recognizes this as an opportunity to show their talent, to show their effective mobility, to show the management their knowledge and capacity and skill in implementing new ideas. Inhibitors will be there, speculators, protectors, doubters. These doubting castles will be there in every organization. Warriors, unnecessarily he himself get worried and he will make his group worried about a new idea or a new concept. These warriors are also has to be trained effectively. Switchers, people who delegate their own responsibilities. New technology may affect psychologically through alterations of job design as well as by the possibility of retrenchment and layoffs. This is what the top management has to concentrate and envisage new policies, new methodologies, new level of freedom to be given to the lower level of hierarchy in winning the struggle of implementing or translating the new ideas into practice. New technology may affect psychologically through alternations of job design as well as the possibility of retrenchment and layoff. These doubts have to be cleared off. The implementation of new technology, a new idea, may entail major changes in the organizational structure. For example, with the advent of computers, structure is totally changed. This formulation of a structure pattern has to be taken care of by the senior managers and HR without disturbing the idea, without giving any unnecessary worry to the implementers. Proper structure has to be designed, communicated, and get the acceptance of the all managers and then implement the structure. That is a very important factor. A critical factor here for successful transforming the idea into practice is not only technology, it is for management to consider explicitly the human element is in the production process. Incorporating these human factors in the system design implementation will substantially alleviate operational difficulties. Many studies have discussed the key success factors for implementing new technologies. These have indicated the importance of the socio-technical fit for successful implementation of technology. I repeat, this is a beautiful sentence. Socio-technological fitness has to be built before envisaging and implementing a very new idea. Research shows successful companies usually adopt a proactive approach of implementation a technology. This involves recognizing training needs and employees, recognizing the training needs and implementing the training process without creating any fear or any doubt about the idea or a new system or a new technology. That is the art of learning development which play this with the assistance of senior management in building the organizational managerial capability to adapt new ideas. Demonstrating a model in such a way that it will help estimating the technology with interacting profile. There will be so many types of profiles in the management, various hierarchies and levels that has to be understood properly, and the design, it must be designed in such a beautiful way, estimating the technology oriented and the doubts which managers are going to expect, clearly throwing off all the fears enveloped in the hearts of the managerial hierarchy. So implementation, here we have to come to with clear idea. Implementation is not self-executing. It is not a process that follows automatically once a program has been formulated. It requires the presence of an action forcing mechanism. I repeat, it requires the presence of an action forcing mechanism. Implementation is a control task. It needs to be dynamic, flexible, and adaptable to the changing situations. Breakdowns of implementation represents a fundamental failure to translate meaningful ideas into effective action. Translating meaningful ideas into effective action. Despite taking initiatives and using rational methods, all too often implementation is swamped by constant pressure and unpredictable problems in the process and create a crisis. Here, the role of the top management. First of all, the top management has to have a clear methodology, clear design. The pros and cons have to be discussed by the top management in a very clear manner. It must be in a position to answer any question levied by starting from a worker to the level of a top executive against a proposed course of action. It shall assume that in any situation there are both driving forces and restraining forces that influences the implementation. What is essential is to push and overpower all immobilize the restraining forces or to turn resisting forces into driving forces, or we can rather say in a very liberal way, converting these restraining forces into driving forces. That is again the technical capability. Not only the technical capability, the art and grandeur, the charisma of a chief executive officer. Here it creates an environment. If a CEO communicates either through personally or through any other medium of communication, that shall give an impetus in the minds of the workforce to the level of a manager to translate the envisaged new idea or technology or a method in formulating into action. So here the top management CEO is the driving force. Before embarking any change strategy like implementation of new technology, it is appropriate to determine what you have going for you in this change effort, that is driving forces, what you are going against restraining forces. If managers start implementing new technology without proper analysis, they can get frustrated and not know why, will result in a very bad thing to the organization. In summarizing this, whenever you are struggling implementing a new idea, a new technology, or a new methodology in the larger interest of the organization, the organizational structure from top to bottom, starting from the chief executive officer down to the level of an assistant manager, everybody must be having clarity about the necessity of that idea in the larger interest of the organization, about how that the idea envisaged can enhance the prestige and enhance the productive base of the organization. Unless the layers are committed and have understood the necessity which will bring welfare to them along with the expansion of the organization or enhancing the capacity of the organization, then only an idea, a new thing can be translated into action. Thank you very much.